Hi everyone, thank you for joining our first SAMS training session. Today we'll be going over how to log into SAMS, adjust your personal settings, and enter an AGNES for a client. So the first thing you'll want to do is go to the Mediware link that has been emailed to you and you'll log in. Remember that you need to use Internet Explorer in order to access SAMS. So you can't use Chrome or Firefox or any other browser. It does have to be Internet Explorer. So what you're seeing here is I am in Internet Explorer. And so the first time that you are being set up, please do feel free to give either myself or Jeannie a call, and we can get you set up in SAMS if we're transferring a license, for instance, and we'll make sure that we get that email address correct for you so that you get the emails from Mediware in order to access this screen. So once you've logged in, or once you've received that email, you'll be able to log in. So you can go ahead and do that. Remember that if you forget your password, that's why it asks you those security questions, and you can change your password using that forgot password link. We can also change it for you, just let us know. This is your SAMS home screen or your Mediware home screen. Notice in the middle that Mediware News, this is something that they control and they put messages on. So they're notifying us that on February 2nd, there's going to be a patch applied. They tend to do these patches during times that people aren't at work, not business hours, so 1 to 5:30 a.m. Over here on the right-hand side, user management. I'm not sure whether y'all have this. I have it because I'm the admin. But customer news is something that y'all see. This obviously is a little bit dated, but this is from Mediware and it just gives you a little bit of background. So feel free to take some time on your own and check that out. Application support resources. This is a really great guide if you have questions and you're looking for something specific. This really gets out into the weeds of SAMS and Mediware. As you can see, there are a lot of guides here. So if you have time and want to read through those, that's great. Some of these, like the SAMS 3 user guide, it's hundreds of pages long. So that can be quite an undertaking. If you're looking for just something specific and really quick, definitely don't hesitate to email myself or Jeannie and let us know what your question is. That's what we're here for. But if you want to really dive in, these are great resources for you. They're provided by Mediware. Here on the left-hand side, application links. These application links are for Mediware. Import-export utility. So for those of you who do the SAMS and My Senior Center import every month, that's what I use to import your My Senior Center data. That's where that lives. The NAPA state reporting tool, we use that annually, and then obviously SAMS 3 as well. And so we'll be going over there in just a second. So customer quick links, this is something that I control for all of y'all that you see. So that's just a link to our aging division website. So feel free to check that out. That's where we are. And it has our contact information there as well. Mediware quick links is controlled obviously by Mediware, and these are links that might be helpful to you, so feel free to check those out. And portal settings, you know, honestly, I don't really use those at all, but feel free to check them out. So what we're here for is for SAMS, so go ahead and give that a click and get into SAMS. Depending on the speed of your internet, sometimes this can take a little bit of time, and especially if it's the first time you're logging into SAMS after we've transferred a license to you or you've purchased another license for your facility, this can take a couple of minutes. So be patient, it's getting there, but like I said, sometimes it does take a little while to get in there. One of the first things I like to do with everyone when they first get into SAMS is go over here. This is your username that you've used to log into SAMS. And I like to click here and go to My Settings. And let's talk a little bit about these settings. So these grid settings are totally up to you. Please feel free to adjust them at your leisure as often as you like. These are your display settings, so only you can see them. And that's just for your ease of use whenever you log into SAMS, and they're specific to your account. So you can make the font size smaller or bigger. You can change the font size or the color if you like to get crazy with color. Alternate backgrounds I really like to use when you have a long list of things. It can be easier to distinguish between them when you alternate background colors. So feel free to change those. There are a couple of settings though that we do ask that you don't change. And those are as follows. Care plan settings, if it's not already at 12 months, go ahead and change it to 12 and don't change it back from that. Assessment settings, the default reassessment date should be for 12 months. Please leave it there. These automatic save intervals you can adjust, but we always recommend that when you're entering things into SAMS that you manually save frequently. So SAMS is going to save for you automatically every 15 minutes, but we recommend saving more frequently than that, just in case your internet is slow or you have a power outage or things like that. So 12 months, 12 months. This is really important, and it's going to make y'all's lives a lot easier. So check that out. Make sure that that's correct. If it's not, correct it, and then please leave it. Makes your lives easier, makes our life easier. So whenever you're done with that, you can go ahead and save and close and get out of those settings. They live over here, so whenever you want to change them, just over here in My Settings. So if you've never used SAMS before, it's a very powerful tool. There are a lot of things that live in SAMS, and there are a lot of things that you'll probably never use. My dashboard is something that we'll get into later. It's a little bit more advanced, so we don't want to throw you to the wolves right away. So know that we'll get to that, but just not here at the beginning. The Consumers tab is also very powerful, but it can complicate your life as well. So we do ask that you only go into the Consumers tab if you are entering in newsletters. If you have questions about that, please don't hesitate to contact me or Jeannie. That's what we're here for. Something I like to point out during SAMS trainings to everyone is that we can correct almost anything in SAMS. If you find that you've made a mistake, we can correct that, except in the Consumers tab. Those are more difficult to correct. So proceed with a lot of caution there. Don't be scared of it, but again, let us know if you have questions. That's what we're here for. Activities we really don't do a whole lot with. Same with routes. Rosters. Typically we access rosters in a different way. The More button, we really don't use as much either. We do quite a bit with reports. So if you are the main SAMS person for your facility or your provider, you'll be running reports, monthly reports for C1 and C2 to send in with monthly invoices, and then for all programs for quarterly reports to send in with those quarterly. So The first thing I like to do is go ahead and enter in AGNESs. So when Jeannie and I do these trainings with y'all, we like to request that you have at least 5 AGNESs to start, just so that we get a little bit of repetition going for you. So let's go ahead and enter in an AGNES for myself. Again, sometimes this can take a little while, just be patient with it. So I have entered some dummy information into my account here in SAMS just to give y'all a sense of all of the different care enrollments and specifications you can have in SAMS. I've given myself some different providers, some different assessments, some care plans, and we will go through all of these. So when you are entering assessments for people, we do ask that you make sure it is the correct person. That's why we ask for that middle initial. We ask you to double, triple check the date of birth. We ask you to check the address if it's listed, the residence, if the emergency contacts match, all those things, because there are people who have the same names. You know, some last names are very common. So if you find that you do need to create a new consumer, that's fine. And if you find that there are multiple listings in SAMS for the same person, just let us know and we can get those merged together. But once we merge them, we can't unmerge them. So do be certain that they are the same person before we merge them. And we always double check that as well. So let's go ahead and enter this assessment. So you'll notice that when I was doing this, I started last year and I entered an assessment for myself with Jeannie when she was training me. And so I wouldn't be, now that it's February, I would be waiting a couple of months to do this. So let's pretend for training's sake that it's April, because we don't need to do assessments more than once a year unless there's been a status change for people. Then you can enter assessments more frequently. There are a couple of things that might be confusing. If you haven't used SAMS, you might be confused about what an assessment is. Assessment is SAMS term for the AGNES. So we call it an AGNES, SAMS calls it an assessment. Those terms are interchangeable. So call us up and you say, I don't know how to enter an AGNES into SAMS. It's actually this assessments tab. So know that there is a little bit of language that is different in SAMS versus the way we refer to things. If you're confused, let us know. So we'll go ahead and add a new AGNES. You're always going to select this AGNES December 2016, unless, and of course, there's always going to be caveats, right? Unless you're entering a quarterly, like for Weiss, for instance, enters quarterly assessments. If you're doing that, then definitely select the quarterly. But for this example, I'm going to do an annual assessment, an annual AGNES, so I would select the AGNES December 2016. The December 2016 just designates that that's the last time we updated it in SAMS, so that's the most recently updated AGNES form. Anything that's grayed out in SAMS like this, you'll notice I can't click on it. So, for example, this AGNES that I'm going to put in for myself is a C1 AGNES. We're just going to keep it simple for this first one. The agency is always going to be us, the Wyoming State Division on Aging. Provider, you'll go through and select who the provider is. So if for some reason you don't see yourselves as providers, let us know. That's a problem. So I'm just going to pick someone at random. Cody. I know Cody does C1. Cody does not have a sub-provider or a site. Oh, they do have sites. But they don't need to be entered for C1 or C2 for the AGNES. So, okay. Date of assessment. Notice that because today is the 2nd of February, SAMS knows that, so it's going to automatically populate that. The date of the assessment when you're entering it into SAMS should be the date that the AGNES was signed. So because remember that we don't want overlapping assessments, overlapping AGNESs, unless there's been a change of status. So I'm going to say that this one is for April of 2018. So when you do that, you can hit tab. You'll notice as well that it automatically enters the next assessment date. And that was that 12 months that we just did the My Settings. So go ahead and click OK. Oh, it's not going to let us do it because we can't enter them for the future. Okay. So that was a great idea I had. It didn't work. So I'll go through and delete this one later. SAMS has a lot of ways to check and make sure that you're not doing things you shouldn't be doing, that it won't allow for like reporting things, etc. So it doesn't let you do things in the future. This, when it's saying map consumer details, because I already existed in the SAMS system, it's pulling that consumer detail that already existed. So it's just asking you to map it from the consumer details to the new AGNES. So go ahead and select the correct response and click OK. So anything with a green check mark means that it already exists in the client information on the details page. So if it has a green check mark, go ahead and go through and make sure that that information is still current. So they could have moved, their phone number could have changed, their emergency contact could have changed, etc. So if it has a green check mark, double check that information. If it doesn't have a green check mark and it's a required question, obviously go ahead and fill that in. This is my direct phone number, 777-7988. If you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to give me a call. So here's one that I haven't answered yet. Did I sign the consent form? Yes, I sure did. Difficulty in reading or writing? No, I do not require a translator. And you'll notice as soon as you answer those questions, you get a green check mark. So that's great. Again, reviewing these. I don't want to scroll too fast and give you whiplash. Okay, and I didn't answer this before. My emergency contact is my sister, so I'm going to select other. Cool. I don't have a second. So then we can move to agency information. If you know who conducted the AGNES, you can type that in here, but that's not required. I'm going to go ahead and leave it blank. The date of the evaluation, again, you entered in the previous screen before you hit OK, but it's just double checking it. And now it wants to know the type of evaluation or the reason for the evaluation. So obviously you have a lot of choices. If it's a B, C1, or D person, you have a choice between an initial evaluation and a reevaluation. If it's a person who's existed and used your services previously, it's probably going to be a reevaluation. If they're brand new, they're going to be an initial evaluation. If they're coming back after a long period of time, if they left for years and years and they're coming back, then probably an initial evaluation. If you have questions about that, again, don't hesitate to give us a call. We want this to be as accurate as possible. So because I already had one in here, I'm going to select that it's a reevaluation. So before moving to the nutrition risk assessment, I'm going to go ahead and save. And I recommend that y'all do the same. Just in case you have internet issues or computer issues, technology issues, things like that. So I go ahead and I take my AGNES form, I turn the page over, and I look at page 2, which is the nutritional risk evaluation, and I answer each of the questions. So once you have a green check mark next to all of these questions, you'll then get a little green eye, which is happy, yay. And then it automatically calculates the nutritional risk score for you. Double check that that nutritional risk score on the screen matches the one that's written on the AGNES. It should. If it doesn't, then we have a problem and we need to go back and double check. Either your math was wrong on your paper AGNES, or you didn't answer the question correctly on the screen. So once it matches, that's great. We'll go ahead and save. So since this is a C1 and it's only those 3 pages, this is all I have to enter. I'm not going to do ADLs or IADLs. So I guess I can't ask y'all if you have any questions because you can't answer me. But once you've gotten those entered in and you've saved, you can go ahead and close. Then you'll see that the assessment pops up and is displayed here. Also notice that I have this sorted. You'll see that indicated by the very smallest little triangle here. The other thing you can do, if yours automatically doesn't do that, in order to sort those for you, is you can click once and it will reverse that. And so now the oldest is on top and the newest is on the bottom. I prefer the newest to be on top so that I can quickly see when the last one was, and then I can go top down. So I always like to sort it this way, but whatever works best for you. Again, SAMS has a lot of ways to customize your viewing, so make it work for you. If you have questions, again, don't hesitate to let us know. So once you've entered the assessment, then you need a corresponding care plan service plan for them. If you don't have that, then you can't enter services for them. So the AGNES is just one piece of it. So the other thing that I guess I probably should have gone over before entering that AGNES was double checking on the details page that I have an enrollment for C1. If I didn't have a care enrollment for C1, then I would add a new one. And that's quick and easy to do. The level of care is always going to be the federal administration. The service program is here. You just select it. The care program populates automatically. You notice it's grayed out. When you're filling this out, this is really important. Please don't forget it. You're going to have a lot of issues if you don't do it correctly. The application date, received date, status date, and start date all need to be the same, and they all need to be for the first day of the month in which the client first started receiving services. So for example, if you have a client who first came in for, say, meals on the 15th of January, this application date, received date, status date, and start date would all be January 1st. This is important because when we go to enter their care plan service plan, that's also going to start on the first day of the month. So it starts with the care enrollment, and then the care plan, and then the service plan. So that's how they're nested together. And the dates in SAMS are very important. If the dates don't line up, then you're definitely going to have a bad day. So for this one to correspond with my AGNES that I just entered for February, I'm going to go ahead and make this the first day of February, so 2/1/2018. You'll notice also when you go to enter these that SAMS tries to be predictive, which sometimes is really great, but if you're in a hurry and you're just clicking through and you meant for it to be last year, you need to keep an eye on that. So just know that it does that. So again, application date, receive date, termination date, you're just entering them. You want them to be active, so don't enter a date there. Again, the status should automatically be active. If it's not for some reason, go ahead and select active. You don't have to fill out reason. Again, status date needs to be the same as application and received date. And start date will be the same as well. Same as with termination date above. You don't want an end date because they've just started and they're active. So you would go ahead and click OK, and that's going to add that care enrollment. I'm going to cancel because I already have a care enrollment and I don't want to have duplication. So you would just click save, and then it would pop up here under care enrollments. So because we just added that assessment right here, now we can add a care plan, service plan. You'll notice that there's my last care plan, service plan, and that's a no-no. The dates are bad. So let's do one with the correct dates. So we'll add new. The primary agency is always going to be us, the state. If you have a primary care manager, you can go ahead and enter it. If you are just starting out in SAMS and we haven't added you into the system as a care manager yet, that's okay. You can just leave it blank. And once you complete your SAMS training, we will get you added in there and you can go back and add yourself as a care manager to all of your clients. This care manager role is going to be blank until you select someone. That's fine. Care program, to select it, you click this button with the green arrow. It opens the dialog box and it shows all of your active care enrollments. So that's why we had to add that first. You can also add a new one here, but I prefer to do it in order. So we're adding a C1. So you just click anywhere. It highlights it in blue. You click OK. The start date is going to be for 2/1/2018. The end date, you'll notice it auto-populates when I tab to 1/31/2019. That's great. We want it for 12 months. The status is always going to be active. The status date is going to be today's date. So today is February 2nd. So we'll leave that and we'll click OK. That's going to open it up. And here's our care plan. Now, when you enter a new care plan, we always ask that you go, it's kind of hard to see and find, but we always ask that you go to edit care plan details before you do anything else, before you add that service plan. So when you click here, it brings you to this page. This is just a double check that you got your dates correct. Again, dates are so important in SAMS. It might seem trivial. It is not, I promise. So we want to double check that it's 2/1/2018 and it goes for a year. That's great. There's no reason to adjust the service plan dates automatically because you're entering a new one each year. So you don't need to check that box. Again, the status date is today. The status is active. So that's great. You can click OK and it closes out of that. To add a new service plan, you'll just click right here for add new. And here's your service plans. So the service category, since we're in C1, these are all the options available to us in C1. So we want congregate meals, The service is congregate meals. The unit type is preset and can't be changed. It's one meal. Wyoming State Division on Aging. The provider is going to be the provider that is for the meals. Again, the start date has to correspond with your care plan. So service plan start date, care plan start date. Oh, and you know what I just realized? I'm going to cancel out of this, and I'm going to close this and discard the changes. Because what I did, oh, I didn't mean to close out of myself. It's good to make mistakes because that's how you learn best, I think. So what I did when I added my AGNES, some of y'all might have already noticed this. When I added my AGNES, it was for Cody Cancel on Aging, but I didn't add Cody Cancel on Aging as a provider, and that's why I couldn't select them in that drop down. Luckily, it's quick and easy to add a provider. Again, there are lots of steps to this, and sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming. Don't worry, everyone's been through that. Everyone feels that. Let us know if you have questions. That's what we're here for. So the start date for the provider is the first day of the month that the provider that you, as the provider, started providing services. Again, that corresponds with that care plan service plan and with the care enrollment. If for some reason this default is checked, you want to uncheck it. And if page 3 is signed, you want to check that the information release is authorized. Then you go ahead and click OK. Look at that, they're added in. Okay, now we can add that service plan. When I try to navigate over, it's saying you have changes. Do you want to save them? Yes, I do. SAMS is good about reminding you when you've made changes and need to save them. So let's go ahead and add that care plan service plan. Again, this goes really quickly when you know what you're doing. If you don't and you're kind of stumbling through, it can take a little bit of time. But take all the time you need. Jeannie and I are always happy to do this with you, either on Google Hangouts or join me and walk you through it step by step. So never hesitate to give us a call. We want you to do it right the first time. And if you make mistakes, we can fix it. No problem. So, okay. This is great because now y'all get to see it twice. So, again, we edit the care plan details. We double check that that's good. Looks great. We click OK. Let's add a new service plan. Congregate meals. Congregate meals. Look at that. Cody Council on Aging. I did it right this time. Site, Cody or Matitsi. Let's pick Cody. Let's say I ate in Cody. Beautiful country up there. Cool. Start date. It defaults. The service plan is defaulting to the date for the care plan. So leave it be. You can change the status to active here if you'd like. It's not necessary. I just prefer to leave it blank. Subservices, some of y'all do subservices for some of your service categories. You know who you are. And if you have questions about that, contact us and let us know, and we can walk you through that. Same with the scheduling. Some of y'all do that. That's not something that we require you to enter. We just require your basic care plan, service plan, as I've shown you here. If you want to get more specific with subservices and scheduling over here, that's up to your director. If they've instructed you that that's something that they want, let us know and we'll help you figure out how to get that entered in. So we selected all of our options there. We click OK, and the service plan pops up. Now, whenever we add congregate meals or home delivered meals, if you're working on a C2, those providers should also be providing nutrition education. So go ahead and add a corresponding nutrition education service plan to the care plan. Again, select your correct provider. If a site is available, select that. Some of y'all don't have sites, that's okay. This looks great. We'll click OK. So you'll notice again that these dates correspond with the care plan dates. The active as of, that's the date we entered it. So we'll save and close. And then you notice that it pops up right there. So there's the C1. So we've entered an AGNES for an existing client. We have added a provider for an existing client. We've entered a care plan, and we've done a service plan. So hopefully that gives you a taste of SAMS, and be on the lookout for the next video where we'll go even more into detail. Thanks so much for joining me. Again, I don't think I mentioned this at the beginning. This is Heather Welch at the Aging Division for Wyoming. Please don't hesitate to ever give me a call if you have questions. Again, Heather Welch. If you do have questions, my phone number is 307-777-7988, or feel free to email me. It's just going to be heather.welch, and make sure you put a 1 after that Welch at wyo.gov. If you need anything, let me know. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining, and we will see you in the next video.